And good morning, Ozarks. You're here watching The Disability Guy. We're going to be talking about marriage here in a little bit, and we'll talk about it right after this.
I want to be your disability rep.
And good morning once again. Marriage, huh?
Yeah, my boy got married yesterday.
Is that right?
Seemed
Well,
like it was topical, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
Married a wonderful gal. We love her to death. Couldn't have picked a better one if we tried. So.
Well, that's good. Yeah, we got that coming up here in a little bit too, it looks like. So
Yeah, outstanding.
Let's see how that's going. But I guess that affects, well, not that in particular, but marriage in general has something to do with disability claims. It's interesting.
It does. So we'll start young. So if you're a dependent or if you're a disabled adult child, in other words, if you've received benefits as a child, or if you became disabled prior to age 22, you draw off of one of your parents. And marriage actually ends that benefit unless you married another disabled adult child.
I see.
So most of the times whenever a person, hits that age, gets married, they lose their benefits entirely. If we talk about older folks, marriage is an interesting critter. In that Social Security looks at whether or not we're holding out as married or whether we're married or whether we're just simply living together. And so if we look at the SSI program, for example, the needs and income-based program that's out there, if you get married, you add income and you add resources to the mix, and so a lot of times the need reduces.
Yeah.
So what Social Security does is then they adjust the benefit amount. Or if you're two people that are on SSI and you get married, you actually end up with about a quarter reduction in the total benefit. So you don't get the SSI standard times 2, you get the lesser amount. When we talk about holding out as married,
Right.
Social Security looks at whether or not we're married, official license, rings, all that sort of thing, or if we're living together and presenting to the world as if we are. And they'll treat you as married.
I see.
Go ahead.
No, I'm interested. I had a couple of questions. One, so if you are the adult child scenario and you get married and you lose your benefit, then you're no longer disabled.
Correct.
I mean, you're still disabled. So do you just reapply?
Yeah, so the Disabled Adult Child Program, you piggyback off of one of your parents. You draw off of their work record.
Sure.
And the idea with Social Security is that you're protected by somebody else's work record. So when you get married, you're then protected by the new person's work record. You're really not in that situation, but you lose that protection of your parents. You'd come back and file for SSI on your own is essentially what you do.
I see, yeah. Well, it sort of seems like it presumes somewhat in the code that we're still in a one wage earner household culture when they're making that presumption.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that's no longer true.
Yeah, and we see the same thing with widows too. If you're a widow and you remarry, a lot of times you lose access to that first spouse's work record. If you divorced, then you can refer back to that first record's household. But you're correct; it's this under the umbrella type approach, as if it's a single earner household.
Yeah, which effectively creates this marriage penalty. We've talked about that for years in the tax code, but here it is, right, showing up in the disability rules.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things is whenever the nationally we went to legalizing gay marriage, there was a lot of people who were cohabitating who then were able to get married, and there was a lot of folks that got very surprised by the SSI rules.
Yeah.
When they got hitched and ended up losing benefits.
Yeah, I can see that being an issue. It seems like it'd just be better if the government stayed completely out of marriage and didn't even recognize it.
I agree wholeheartedly. And
I know others that disagree with me. Some people that I agree with on almost everything that think that they disagree with that. But for me, it's a religious institution, not a government one, and the government could just stay out of it. It would be easier on all of us. But
it's a lot of those same people that will scream about separation of church and state that miss this separation of church and state.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, for that. So, I was trying to think what my other question was. Well, I think that was it. It was just as the punishing the marriage status. But
Yeah. The other interesting thing is, the common law question comes up a lot of times. I think there's 7 states that recognize common law. Closest to us would be Kansas, and then I think Colorado is probably the next closest. Maybe Arizona.
yeah, I think I'm trying to think. Pennsylvania maybe has that.
They refer to Kansas as the don't sleep over state. I don't know if you've ever heard that analogy or not, but
No.
there's no minimum length of time to cohabitate in the state of Kansas.
Is that right? I did a little bit of looking at those rules a while back on behalf of a client just to see if they'd actually gotten married at some point, and I had to trace where they cohabitated through several states, and I don't think they ever actually met any of the minimums in the states they were in, but.
But yeah, if you're receiving Social Security or SSI benefits, if you're drawing off of your Social Security disability, marriage really doesn't affect anything. It's only that SSI program that's an issue. The Disabled Adult Child's program, and then, of course, the Widows program later on. Yeah. There actually is this thing at Social Security called Widows Waiting to Wed. And if you remarry after age 60, you can still draw off of your first spouse. If you remarry before age 60, you cannot. And so there's this idea that there's a bunch of, late 50-year-old women waiting to get married until they hit 60. It's kind of comical sometimes the way that they envision these things when they wrote the code.
And you just think, why bother? Why are we going to such lengths to try to control people's behavior and activities from a federal government level? But anyway, if you guys have any questions about marriage, if you're contemplating marriage and you're on SSI disability or program and you want to know, is it a good idea or bad idea from a financial standpoint, Roy's on standby. He's ready to talk to you.
Only from a financial standpoint. I'm not going to counsel folks.
Okay, no marriage counseling from Roy. You can call him today. His number is right there on the screen behind us, 417-812-6698. And you can go to his website, UrDisabilityRep.com. Good?
Sounds good.
Okay,
we'll
see you next week. Thanks.
I want to be your disability rep.